My name is Devin Carter. I am 32 years old. I work a second shift line at the regional distribution warehouse, just off Interstate 40. And I am married to a woman named Tiffany Carter. We have been married for 3 years and together for 5. And until one Tuesday night, I believed I understood who we were and where our life together was heading. 2 weeks before that Tuesday, I made reservations at the Copper Grill in Memphis because Tiffany had mentioned wanting to try their signature ribeye. I arranged the evening like a small promise. I took an earlier break at work to beat traffic, showered, put on the blue check shirt she bought me for Christmas, and stopped at the flower shop for white roses because she often posted them online with captions about how they made her feel calm. The table was exactly as I asked. A corner booth along the far wall, dim lighting, and a view of the open kitchen. Tiffany walked in wearing a deep blue dress that turned her eyes into something bright. She smiled when she saw the roses, kissed my cheek, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. We ordered wine, split an appetizer, and chatted about her new promotion at the marketing firm, where she had recently moved into a strategy role. If I am honest, things have felt different for a while. Tiffany was constantly busy. Yoga classes on weeknights, art workshops on weekends, book club meetings that drifted into later dinners. Whenever I asked to carve out time for just us, she had somewhere else to be. I told myself it was temporary, that this was what successful adults managed. Balancing careers, friends, growth. Dessert came. Tiramisu with 2 forks. And that was when Tiffany set down her fork, looked me directly in the eye, and delivered the sentence that shook the ground under our lives. "I need you to understand something," she said. "Marriage does not mean you're my top priority. I have other important things in my life." I held the plate, fork halfway to my mouth, and tried to hear what she truly meant. All around us, the restaurant hummed with harmless laughter and the clink of glasses. At our table, something quiet and invisible had torn down the middle. "What exactly does that mean?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. Tiffany leaned back in the booth, as though she had practiced the line and now felt relief in saying it out loud. "It means I'm not going to drop everything just because you want to spend time together. I have my career, my friends, my personal goals. You cannot expect me to revolve my life around being your wife." A rebuttal formed in my head. Every time I had rearranged my schedule, every event of hers I had attended, all the small ways I'd built my days around us. But the rebuttal felt like a plea, and I heard another voice in my head telling me not to beg for what should not require begging. "You are absolutely right," I said calmly. "Priorities are personal." She blinked, clearly expecting an argument. "Exactly. I am glad you understand." I signaled for the check without a word. When it came, I paid, and we walked out into the warm night air that held the scent of damp concrete and grilled meat from the late dinner crowd. The drive home was quiet. Tiffany scrolled through her phone, smiling at something I could not see while I replayed her words like a careful recording. By the time we pulled into our driveway, I had made a decision. If marriage was not her priority, then it did not have to be mine. If we were redesigning the rules, I would learn to play by them. That night, Tiffany moved through her skincare routine and emerged in soft pajamas, kissed my cheek, and set an alarm for her early meeting with the design team. I sat on the edge of the bed, listening to the slow ticking of the wall clock, and thought about what she had really told me. It was not only about time. It was about hierarchy. Tiffany had told me, openly and without hesitation, that being my wife did not top her list, that our partnership would not determine the shape of her days and nights. I lay there staring at the ceiling, feeling something inside me unhook from the old pattern. Morning came the way mornings do. Light pushing around the blinds, the sound of our neighbor's car backing out. Tiffany brushed past me in the kitchen, grabbing coffee and a granola bar, heels in one hand, tote bag in the other. "Do not forget my book club is hosting that charity event on Saturday," she said, checking her phone. "It starts at 7 o'clock. In the old pattern, I would have already blocked the time on my calendar, turned down anything else. In the new pattern that had arrived like a quiet verdict, I said, "I hope it goes well." She paused. "You will be there, right?" "I will have to check my schedule," I said, and took another sip of coffee. She searched my face for a clue and found none. "Okay, let me know." Then she left, the door falling shut with its usual soft click. At work, Jerome Porter, my buddy from the loading crew, asked if I wanted to join the Friday happy hour at Murphy's Tavern. Jerome had been asking for months, and I had always found a reason to say no, because Fridays had become our routine night, or because Tiffany preferred having me home. Yes, I said, and Jerome actually laughed because my answer was that unexpected. You sure? He asked. You think your wife will be cool with it? Priorities are personal, I told him, and meant it in a way I had not understood before. Friday arrived, and I did not ask Tiffany what she wanted to do for dinner. I told her I had plans. She looked puzzled, but said nothing. I spent 3 hours at the bar with the crew, talked basketball and music and stories about supervisors, and remembered what it felt like to be a full person in a chair rather than half of a negotiation. When I got home just after 9 o'clock, Tiffany sat on the couch with a glass of wine, watching a reality show. She did not look up for a long time. How was your evening? She asked eventually. Good. How was yours? Fine, she said. It was not a fight. It was not even an echo of a fight. It was two adults living parallel lives, and that unsettled me and calmed me in the same moment. The next change was not dramatic. I called my insurance agent on Monday while Tiffany was at yoga and asked to remove my spouse as my life insurance beneficiary, splitting the amount between my parents and my brother, Isaiah. The agent, Ms. Turner, said, Are you certain you want to do this? I am certain, I said. Please schedule me to sign the paperwork. On Monday afternoon, I signed the forms, and walking out into the parking lot, I felt a loose, strange freedom. If marriage was not Tiffany's priority, then someone should benefit from the care I still owed, to the people who had always prioritized me. When Tiffany mentioned the book club's trip to Napa Valley the next weekend, I did not clear my calendar or remind myself to miss her. Instead, I made separate plans to go to a Memphis Redbirds game with friends. When her yoga studio held its fundraiser dinner, I politely declined and met my college friends, Calvin and Omar, for a steak downtown. I wore a jacket, ordered a Manhattan, and stayed out late without feeling like I had escaped anything. Tiffany began to notice the new geometry. You have been going out a lot lately, she said one evening while scrolling through her phone as I adjusted my tie. Yes, it is nice making time for friendships. I thought we could stay in, order takeout, and watch a movie. That sound good for you, I said, picking up my keys. I will probably be home around 11 o'clock. She stood, surprised by the bluntness, and then asked quietly, Since when do you choose friends over spending time with me? I turned and kept my voice neutral. Since you explained that marriage does not make spouses each other's top priority, I am applying that same logic. Her lips parted, then closed. There was no rebuttal that did not expose the double standard. 3 weeks after the Copper Grill dinner, I met with our financial advisor, Mr. Wallace, and separated what was mine from what was ours. I opened an individual investment account. I changed automatic transfers. I decided what to do with my money without seeking permission, just as Tiffany made decisions about her time without seeking mine. When the paperwork arrived in the mail, Tiffany found the thick envelope on the console table and brought it into the living room as I was drafting a work schedule swap on my laptop. What is this? She asked. Account changes, I said without looking up. What kind of changes? Personal ones. She opened the packet, read, and read again. You moved half of our retirement savings into an individual account. My retirement savings, I corrected, into my individual account. But we are married. We plan these things together. I met her eyes then. According to your rules, marriage does not make us each other's top priority. It made sense to plan my future accordingly. Tiffany set the papers down. Her hands trembled. That is not what I meant. Then what did you mean? I asked. She opened her mouth, closed it, and looked away. Because there was no version of her sentence that did not say what it said. By the end of that month, my schedule had texture. I played pickup basketball on Thursdays, went to happy hour every other Friday, helped my brother move apartments on a Saturday, without asking if Tiffany had plans first, and visited my parents in South Memphis on a Sunday afternoon. I came home lighter, like I had stopped attempting to pull two lives with one set of hands. Tiffany started to comment, small and sharp. You are almost never home anymore. Or, we have not had dinner together in 3 days. I did not argue. I am following your advice about priorities, I would say, and walk away. The breaking point arrived on a Thursday when I was fastening my watch to meet Calvin, who was in town for business. Tiffany had her laptop open on the bed, but her eyes were on me. Another night out, she tried to ask casually. Yes, I said. I have not seen him in 2 years. What about me? I paused, fingers resting on the watch clasp. What about you? She looked lost for a moment and then reached for certainty. I am here. We could order pizza and watch that show we started. You still can, I said. You do not need me there to enjoy your evening. I want you there. The words stilled me. They had a humility in them I had not heard in months. That is kind, I said, but I already made plans. Cancel them. I turned, studied her face, and saw a vulnerability that did not match the woman who laid down rules at a corner booth 3 weeks earlier. Why would I cancel my plans? Because I am your wife, she said softly. And your being my wife does not make you my top priority. I answered in the same cadence she used with me. You explained that clearly. She swallowed and looked down. That is not fair. What is not fair about living exactly by your stated rules? There was no way to answer that without admitting those rules only worked one way. I left for dinner and returned after 10 o'clock to find her in gray sweatpants with her phone face down. The living room was quiet, lit by one lamp. How was dinner? She asked. Good. How was your evening? Boring. She inhaled and let it out in a shaky line. I've been thinking about what you said. I sat in the armchair, not on the couch beside her. About what? You are angry with me. I'm not angry. Then what is this? The distance, the coldness. You are punishing me. I am protecting myself. From what? From being the only person in this marriage who treats it like a marriage. She put her glass down. That is not true. Is it not? When was the last time you changed your plans for me? When was the last time you chose to spend time with me over something else you wanted? When was the last time you made a decision because it was best for us and not simply best for you? Silence spread between us. I work hard, she said finally. I have goals and ambitions. I cannot be at your beck and call. I never asked you to be in my beck and call, I said. I asked to be included in your priorities. There's a difference. I do include you. You told me that marriage does not make me your priority. I said it without heat. I said it the way a person reads a line from a document. Her eyes filled. I did not mean it like that. How did you mean it? She cannot explain in a way that did not circle back to what she had said. Is this how it's going to be? She asked. Are we just roommates who share a bed? I do not know, I said. You set the rules. I want to change the rules. Why? The question caught her off guard. She stared at her hands, then looked up. Because I miss you. You miss being prioritized while not prioritizing, I said. That is not what I miss. I miss feeling like we are a team. I stood and slung my gym bag over my shoulder. We cannot be a team when only one person plays for the team. Where are you going? To the gym. It is early. I have plans. Sunday morning arrived with a sharp air that made the kitchen tile feel cool under my feet. I brewed coffee and skimmed sports scores on my phone. Tiffany walked in wearing an oversized t-shirt, hair pushed into an unintentional halo, eyes hot with the kind of exhaustion that comes from thinking in circles. I feel invisible to you, she said, palm flat on the counter. Good morning, I said. Do not do that. Do not pretend this is normal. We have been together for 5 years, married for 3, and now you treat me like a roommate you barely tolerate. I set my phone aside. You said marriage does not make me your top priority. You said you have other important things. I am following your philosophy. That does not mean I want to be ignored. I'm not ignoring you. I am treating you as an independent person who said she does not need her husband's constant attention. You are twisting my words. Am I? You said you would not drop everything to spend time together. You named your career, friends, and personal goals first. I understand that order. She paced the kitchen like a cage thing and then stopped, pressed eyes closed, and let out a breath. I was talking about balance. It sounded like you were talking about hierarchy. This is ridiculous. You are acting like a child. No, I am acting like an adult who learned a lesson. You cannot demand to be someone's priority while refusing to make them yours. She went still. What does that mean for us? It means you set the terms. I accepted them. If you want different terms, you have to say them and then live them. She stepped back, moist-eyed, and her voice softened. I miss my husband. Your husband is right here, I said. He is simply no longer your assistant. She wiped her cheeks. You used to care about my events, my friends, my interests. I still care. I just do not make them my responsibility. There is a difference. This is not how marriage is supposed to work. You are right, I said. Marriage is supposed to be two people making each other a priority, supporting each other, and building a life together. That is what I want, she said quickly. You wanted me to make you a priority, while you kept your options open. She leaned against the refrigerator, shoulders shaking. I wanted to maintain my independence. You have it, I said. Completely. This is not what I wanted. Then consider what you truly want before you tell me what I must accept. I picked up my gym bag. I will be back in a couple of hours. What about breakfast? What about talking? We just did. I left, and the quiet of the street felt like permission to breathe. When I returned, she had showered and dressed. The kitchen table was covered with documents, bank statements, retirement account summaries, the insurance confirmation letters. She gestured to the chair across from her. We need to talk. About what? About these. She pushed an account printout toward me. You moved $12,000 into your personal account. My money that I earned, I said. Yes, but we always discussed large financial decisions. We did when we were building a shared future, I said. Lately, we have not been. She pulled another paper. You removed me as your life insurance beneficiary. Correct. What if something happens to you? Then my parents and my brother will be taken care of. The people who have prioritized me, without condition. She flinched. That is cruel. It is practical. Why would I leave money to someone who does not treat our partnership like a priority? She stared at the retirement documents. We had goals. We talked about a cabin in Colorado. We talked about traveling. We talked about many things, I said. Then you explained the order of your priorities. I adjusted to match. Something in her expression broke. A panic stripped of all pretense. You are destroying our life together. I am done building it alone. That is different. What does that mean? It means I've been the one rearranging, sacrificing, choosing you while you chose everything else. I volunteered. I have stopped volunteering. She was quiet long enough to make the clock on the microwave feel loud. I thought I could have both. Independence and marriage. Yes, you can, I said. But independence means accepting that if you do not prioritize your partner may not prioritize you either. She folded a tissue between her fingers. I never thought you would stop caring. I did not stop caring. I stopped pretending caring requires that I disappear. Were you unhappy? I was happy making you happy, I said. That only works when both people are committed to making each other happy. She stared at the table and whispered, so what now? That depends on you, I said. You created this dynamic. If you want something else, decide what it looks like, and then live it. She looked up, eyes searching for the man who used to move mountains for her. I do not know how. Then perhaps you are not ready to be married, I said gently. Do not say that. Marriage is not just about love, I answered. It is about partnership, commitment, and shared priorities. I want to learn, she said. I do not know if I want to return to how it was before. I want something better. Then learn, I said. But understand I will live my life while you decide. I will not freeze in place. She gathered the papers, shook her head as if trying to clear it, and left the room. I sat with the numbers until they stopped feeling like betrayals and started feeling like boundaries. 3 weeks passed with a quiet that felt deliberate. Tiffany continued going to yoga, but then began to come home earlier. She canceled one late dinner with a book club and said she was tired. She asked about my workday 2 evenings in a row in a way that seemed less like small talk and more like a bridge. One Friday, I walked in to find her chopping vegetables in our kitchen, a recipe open on her tablet. She wore jeans and a soft gray sweater, and her expression was composed but nervous. I canceled my book club tonight, she said without looking up. Why? Because I want to cook dinner for my husband. There was weight in the phrase my husband, as if she understood it as a role that required deliberate attention. The house filled with the scent of garlic and rosemary, and we ate at our table rather than on the couch. Over dinner, she asked about my day and listened, with follow-up questions. She told me about a proposal she was drafting and how it might affect our long-term finances. The conversation felt like we had changed the channel to something unscripted and true. I've been thinking, she said over dessert, about priorities and partnership. You were right. I wanted all the benefits of marriage without the responsibilities. I did not answer. Words are easy. I know you do not trust me right now, she continued. I know I have to show you. Over the next month, she did the things that are easy not to do when your life is full of other invitations. She turned down a weekend yoga retreat to stay home with me. She rescheduled a book club meeting that conflicted with a dinner I had planned. She asked about Calvin and Jerome and whether she should organize something for the 4 of us. One quiet Sunday morning, when the newspaper was spread out and coffee steamed in our mugs, she said, "I have been thinking about having a baby." I looked up. "What? A baby?" she said, clearer. "Us having a baby." This was the same woman who once named her career first every time the topic came up. "Why now?" I asked. "Because I realized that building a life with someone means building it together," she said. "I want to build something with you." "Are you sure?" 6 months ago, I believed personal goals and marriage goals were separate. I was wrong. We talked the way people do when they're no longer guarding their edges. We discussed how we would share responsibilities, how we would protect time for us, how we would handle late nights and early mornings and the presence of a new person who would change everything about the shape of our days. "I know I hurt you," she said as the light faded through the blinds. "I know I made you feel like you did not matter. You do matter. I want to show you, not just say it." "How do I know this is not because you dislike the consequences of your choices?" I asked. "Because I am not asking to return to what we were," she said. "I am asking to build something different and better." Summer turned and the days lengthened, and Tiffany's actions match her promises. She told Keisha from book club that she could not host the next meeting on our anniversary weekend. She blocked off Friday evenings for us on her calendar and turned down a late client dinner without asking me what I preferred, then told me she had done it because we had plans. She apologized, not with flowers or dramatic gestures, but by showing up thoughtfully. She asked me to join her at a museum exhibit and then asked me where I wanted to go afterward. She left her phone in her bag during dinner without glancing down at it every 5 minutes. She asked about my parents and whether we could bring dinner to their place the next Sunday. My instinct was to test her, to keep score, to hold back. But partnership cannot grow in a ledger. It grows in days and small decisions. The night she told me she was late, her voice trembled. We stood in the bathroom with the quiet ticking of the exhaust fan. When the test turned positive, she covered her mouth and shook. "I am scared," she said. "Me too," I answered, and that felt like a promise. Pregnancy did not absolve the past. It did not erase the ways we had hurt each other, but it focused us. Tiffany prioritized prenatal appointments, rest, and work boundaries. I rearranged my schedule where I could make every appointment, and when I could not, she sent me updates and asked me to meet her for lunch afterward. We met with Mr. Wallace again, this time with joint goals that had been discussed, not assumed. We moved funds into a savings account for unexpected expenses and a modest future college fund. And Tiffany was the one who suggested scaling back an upcoming girls' weekend to save for the hospital costs. "I used to think independence meant saying yes to everything I wanted," she told me one night, nestled on the couch with a blanket. "Now I think it means choosing who and what matters and honoring those choices." My brother asked me how we were doing, cautiously. I told him the truth. "We are learning to build on purpose." Tiffany asked if she could reach out to my mother for a few family recipes. She said she wanted to cook the greens just right. The call lasted an hour, and when she hung up, she had a list and a light in her face I had missed. The baby's heartbeat pulsed in the dim room at the clinic like a small drum, and Tiffany reached for my hand. I did not pull away. She squeezed, and I squeezed back. One night, months later, Tiffany stood in our kitchen and wrapped her arms around me from behind while I stirred a pot of chili. "I am grateful," she said into my shoulder. "For what?" "For another chance," she said. "For the lesson I did not want but needed." I thought about the corner booth at the Copper Grill, about the sentence that split our life open, and about the decisions that followed. I thought about how easy it would have been to break apart, to call it irreparable. But sometimes, the road back is not a straight line. It is a series of deliberate steps, a refusal to keep walking in the wrong direction. She rested her cheek between my shoulder blades. "I know words are not enough," she said. "I will spend my days proving what I say now, that our life together is not the thing that fits around my plans. It is the plan." I turned, kissed her forehead, and did not pretend everything was tidy. We were two people who had learned the hard way that priority streets run both ways, or they do not run at all. We were two people who had tested the edges of independence and found the best version of it included the other person on purpose. When our daughter arrived in early winter, the world shrank to a hospital room and the soft staccato of newborn cries. Tiffany was exhausted and luminous, eyes damp, hair pushed back, voice quiet with awe. "We did this," she whispered, holding that tiny bundle like a vow. "We did," I said, and in that moment the old hierarchy felt like a story someone else had told us a long time ago. The nights that followed were not simple. We took turns with feedings and learned the choreography of diapers and burp cloths. Tiffany reminded me to sleep, and I reminded her to drink water. She asked me to hold her child so she could take a shower, and I asked her to nap while I rocked the baby in the dark. In the rare quiet, Tiffany would watch me. "I see you," she would say, not as flattery, but as recognition. I would answer, "I see you," and mean it. The new shape of our days was not sacrifice with one of us disappearing, but compromise with both of us present. A few months later, on an ordinary Saturday, we drove past the Copper Grill. It was bright day, the awnings casting deep shadows on the sidewalk. Tiffany reached across the console and laced her fingers with mine. "That night," she said, "I thought I was protecting who I was. I did not realize that I was pushing away who I wanted to be." "We both learned," I said. "I learned something else," she added. "Independence without care is selfishness. Partnership without boundaries is erasure." We needed both together. We did not circle back to old arguments. We did not retell them to injure each other. We let them be part of the map that got us here and kept choosing this road. Later that evening, with the baby asleep, Tiffany set 2 mugs of tea on the coffee table and pulled out a notebook. I was thinking we could plan the next few months. Not just logistics, intentions. "All right," I said, curious. "What do you need from me?" she asked. I considered the question like a precious thing. "I need you to continue doing exactly what you've been doing. Asking, listening, deciding with me. I need to feel your presence as a choice." She nodded and wrote it down as if taking notes at a meeting where the agenda mattered. "And what do you need from yourself?" "To keep showing up," I said. "To keep telling the truth." She smiled, and for a moment I saw the woman in the blue dress on that first night at that corner booth. Except now the light in her eyes was steadier. We made a short list. Date nights marked on a calendar, visits with parents, a plan to split chores, a rotating night when each of us could disappear for 2 hours to be alone, gym, books, a walk, without explanation or guilt. When we finished, Tiffany closed the notebook. "Thank you for not giving up on me," she said. "Thank you for not giving up on us," I answered. I did not pretend that our story is a template. Every marriage is its own language. Ours learned new words, boundaries and care, balance and presence. We learn to mean what we say and then to say what we mean again with our choices. Sometimes I think about the first sentence, the one that felt like a cold slap in a warm restaurant, and I realize it was not only an ending. It was an opening. It forced us to decide whether we were merely 2 people sharing a space or 2 people building a life. We chose the latter, and we keep choosing it on ordinary Tuesdays and sleepless nights and quiet mornings when the baby breathes in soft puffs against Tiffany's chest, and I hand her a mug of coffee, and she smiles like the moment itself is exactly the point. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.